Eli adjusted his headset and checked the flight panel one last time. The shuttle hummed beneath him. A sleek, self-driving vehicle designed to ferry people across the city's skyline. Usually, the shuttle drove itself, but Eli liked being in control. Call it habit, or maybe pride. Today, it was a routine drop-off at the downtown bank. A simple task. Nothing special. Or so he thought. The city below was alive with movement. Flying cars zipped past skyscrapers. Drones carried packages through the air. And holographic ads flickered on glass buildings. Eli always loved this part, the view from above, the sense that humanity had reached something extraordinary, and yet, he knew the fragile truth. Technology could fail at any moment. And only human skill could save the day. He leaned back slightly, eyes scanning the shuttle's instruments. Everything looked normal, but he had a nagging feeling, like a warning whisper at the edge of his mind. Brushing it off, he tapped the console to confirm the bank as the drop-off point. The AI assistant's calm, synthesized voice confirmed. Destination confirmed. Estimated arrival, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Plenty of time. Eli let out a quiet sigh and glanced at the passenger seats. Most of the passengers were absorbed in their devices, headphones on, eyes glued to holo screens. One woman caught his attention. She wasn't distracted, wasn't tapping or swiping. She was watching the city with a calm, almost curious expression. Dark hair, tailored suit, she had the air of someone who knew she belonged at the top. Eli made a mental note but didn't think much of it. Then it happened. A sharp jolt shook the shuttle. Warning lights flashed. The AI voice spoke again. More urgent this time. System error detected. Autonomous mode disengaged. Manual override required. Eli's heart skipped a beat, but his fingers were already moving. He grabbed the controls instinctively. The shuttle wobbled dangerously. Below, the streets were crowded, pedestrians moving without realizing how close danger was. Eli's mind focused. There was no time to panic. He had trained for emergencies, even if it was just a theoretical exercise before getting this job. He adjusted the thrusters, nudging the shuttle up and away from a cluster of smaller flying vehicles. The passengers gasped. One of them cried out, "Is this normal?" Eli shook his head quickly, trying to keep calm. "Just hang on," he said. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. The woman in the suit, who had been watching quietly before, leaned forward slightly. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp, observant. She didn't scream or panic. She just watched, silently evaluating every move. Eli guided the shuttle around a towering billboard, narrowly avoiding a drone delivery that had come out of nowhere. Sparks flew as the shuttle grazed its edge. The passengers murmured in fear, but Eli stayed focused. One mistake, one hesitation, and this would not end well. He spotted the bank ahead. The landing zone was small, surrounded by other shuttles and pedestrians. The AI's internal diagnostics were failing, giving him only partial information. He had to rely on instinct and skill. His fingers danced over the controls, adjusting thrust and angle. He whispered to himself, almost as a mantra, "Steady, steady, steady." The shuttle hovered above the landing pad. The crowd below had noticed the commotion, people stopping to stare. Eli took a deep breath and began the descent. The shuttle shuddered as the final adjustments were made. With a soft thud, it landed safely. Eli exhaled, finally allowing himself a small smile. The passengers erupted in applause. "Wow! That was incredible," one said. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Eli nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. He helped people unbuckle and gather their belongings. The woman in the suit stepped forward. She didn't clap, didn't shout. She simply extended a hand. "Impressive work," she said, her voice calm but commanding. Not everyone could handle a malfunction like that. Eli shook her hand, feeling the firm grip. "Just doing my job," he replied. She raised an eyebrow, a small smile forming. Most people would have panicked. Most people would have, well, crashed. Eli shrugged. Maybe. I don't like leaving things to chance. For a moment, she studied him closely. Eli felt a little exposed under her gaze. It was as if she could see through the routine, see the part of him that thrived under pressure. She tilted her head slightly and asked quietly, almost like a test, "Do you have a girlfriend?" Eli blinked. The question was unexpected. He hadn't even thought about it. The shuttle, the passengers, the near crash, now this? He shook his head slowly, trying to hide his surprise. No. Not right now. She gave him a small, approving smile and nodded. Then, without another word, she turned to help another passenger. Eli watched her go. Curiosity piqued. There was something about her, not arrogance, not authority, but interest, subtle and careful. The rest of the passengers filed out, still talking excitedly about the near miss. Eli secured the shuttle, double-checking the systems. Even though the emergency was over, he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was important. Something about the way she looked at him. It was different from the usual passengers. She wasn't impressed by the thrill or the rescue. She was impressed by him. He closed the shuttle doors and took a deep breath, letting the adrenaline fade. This was just another day in the city. But he knew, somehow, that it wouldn't stay routine for long. Walking away from the landing pad, he couldn't help glancing back at the bank. The woman in the suit was still there, watching briefly before entering the building. Eli shook his head, trying to focus on the mundane tasks of the day. But the question lingered in his mind. Do I have a girlfriend? It was simple, human, almost intimate, and it made him wonder why it mattered so much to her. Eli returned to his small apartment later, exhausted but exhilarated. He replayed the events in his mind, analyzing every decision he had made. He had acted fast, relied on his instincts, and managed to save everyone. But beyond the thrill, he kept thinking about her. Lydia Vance, the woman who didn't panic, who asked the quiet, strange question, who seemed to understand him without saying much. He knew one thing. The city was full of chaos, machines, and people rushing through life. But in that moment, in that tiny interaction, Eli realized something about humanity. Even in a world ruled by technology, skill, courage, and connection mattered more than any AI ever could. And maybe, just maybe, there was a new adventure waiting, one that involved the enigmatic woman who had asked the question that now echoed in his mind. Eli smiled faintly to himself. The city was alive, the night lights glittering like stars reflected in glass towers. And somewhere, just beyond the shadows of skyscrapers, he felt that life was about to become more interesting than he had ever imagined. The shuttle hummed quietly behind him, safe, still. But Eli knew that soon, it wouldn't be about machines. It would be about humans, about courage, about connection, about the unpredictable, thrilling spark that made people truly extraordinary. And tomorrow, he thought, maybe he would see her again. The next morning, the city felt different to Eli. The sky was clear, sunlight reflecting off the glass towers. But he couldn't shake the memory of yesterday, the sudden malfunction, the panic, and most of all, the woman in the suit, Lydia Vance. Her quiet observation and the unexpected question about his personal life replayed in his mind again and again. Eli tried to focus on his routine, checking shuttle maintenance logs and calibrating the autopilot systems. He enjoyed this part of the job. The hum of machinery, the small clicks of controls, the subtle adjustments that kept everything smooth. He liked precision. It reminded him that humans still mattered, even in a world dominated by AI. Yet, no matter how much he focused on the shuttle, his thoughts kept drifting back to her. He remembered her calm, almost unreadable expression, how she didn't panic like the others, and how she had asked a question that seemed oddly personal, yet respectful. By mid-morning, he was finishing a system check when his tablet buzzed. A new message appeared from an unknown number. "Mr. Eli, this is Lydia Vance. I wanted to personally thank you for your actions yesterday. Your skill in a high-pressure situation was remarkable. If you are available, I would like to invite you to the Vance Tech Symposium this Friday. Your insight could be valuable. Eli stared at the screen. His fingers trembled slightly. He was not used to this kind of attention. CEOs didn't usually contact shuttle operators personally. Most invitations he got were routine or automated. But this was different, personal, and intentional. After a few moments, he typed a cautious reply. Thank you, Miss Vance. I am honored. I will attend. He set the tablet down and leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine what it would be like to step into a world so far removed from his own. Vance Tech was a giant in AI and interstellar technology. People spoke of their projects in awe, but Eli had never imagined he might be involved. Friday arrived. Eli adjusted his plain shirt and checked his reflection in the shuttle's rearview mirror. The Vance Tech headquarters towered above him, sleek and futuristic, almost glowing under the morning sun. He parked the shuttle and stepped out, taking in the scale of the building. People in smart suits moved quickly through glass doors, holographic name tags blinking briefly as they passed. Inside, the lobby was vast, with a high ceiling and polished floors. Holo ads displayed the latest AI projects, robot assistants, guided visitors, and the faint hum of machinery mixed with the soft murmur of human voices. Eli felt slightly out of place in his simple clothing, but he reminded himself, his skill was what mattered, not appearances. He was about to ask for directions, when a familiar voice spoke behind him. You found your way here without guidance. Good. He turned to see Lydia Vance. She looked exactly as he remembered, calm, confident, and impossible to ignore. Her suit was sharp but simple, and her eyes held the same quiet curiosity that had caught him off guard. Miss Vance, he said, trying to keep his tone professional but failing to hide his awe. Call me Lydia, she said, with a hint of a smile. And you are Eli, correct? That's me, he replied, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. She gestured toward a hallway. Follow me. I'll introduce you to a few people. Then you can see the symposium. I think you'll enjoy it. The symposium was even more impressive than Eli had imagined. Rows of displays showcased robotic exoskeletons, AI-controlled drones, and simulations of interstellar colonies. Scientists and engineers discussed theories and demonstrations with excitement. Most of the attendees ignored him, focused on their own projects. But Lydia walked beside him, occasionally glancing at him as though silently asking, "What do you think?" Eli noticed a pattern. Where the AI-controlled robots performed perfectly, the humans around them still struggled with subtle mistakes, overcorrections, misjudgments, and assumptions that machines could not anticipate. Eli realized something powerful. No matter how advanced the technology, human intuition, experience, and adaptability remained unmatched. Lydia paused at one of the displays. A robot arm was assembling delicate components at incredible speed, but it hesitated when a slight irregularity appeared in the material. Most engineers noted the hesitation and moved on. But Eli stepped closer. That arm is precise, he said, pointing, but it doesn't adjust well to irregularities. If it encounters the wrong angle, it could misalign the next piece. A small correction from a human hand here could save hours of error. Lydia's eyebrows rose slightly. You notice details. Others miss. Eli shrugged. It's what we do. Humans adapt. Machines follow instructions. Both are useful. But sometimes instinct matters more. She nodded, clearly impressed. Exactly why I wanted you here. Insight from someone like you, grounded in reality, in human skill, is rare at this level. As the day went on, Eli observed more than he participated. He watched engineers present ideas, robots perform, and executives discuss investments. But every now and then, he noticed Lydia looking at him quietly, thoughtfully. It was not evaluation in a formal sense. It was observation, almost like she was trying to understand the human mind behind quick decisions, courage, and intuition. At lunch, Lydia led him to a quiet corner of the cafeteria. Unlike the crowded tables, this space was calm, filled only with soft light and the hum of distant machinery. She sat across from him and studied his face for a long moment before speaking. "You handled yourself well yesterday," she said. "Not just the shuttle, but the way you stayed calm. People don't realize how rare that is." Eli shifted in his seat. "I just did what I thought was right. Maybe I was lucky." Lydia shook her head. "It wasn't luck. Luck happens to everyone at some point. But staying clear-headed under pressure, that's skill. Courage. Something machines don't have." Eli felt a strange sense of pride, mixed with modesty. For the first time, he realized that his ordinary life, his everyday skills, could matter in a world obsessed with technology. Humans were still capable of remarkable things. She leaned slightly forward, lowering her voice. "Do you understand why I asked about a girlfriend?" Eli blinked. Not really." I'm curious," she said simply. "Someone who can handle pressure, stay calm, and think clearly under stress. Someone like that doesn't come around often. And I wanted to know if anyone else has that privilege." Eli felt a warmth spread through him. It wasn't just flattery. It was acknowledgement. Recognition that human courage, skill, and calm mattered not just to machines, but to other humans as well. After lunch, Lydia invited him to watch a live demonstration. A fleet of AI-controlled drones was programmed to navigate a complex obstacle course. Most engineers expected perfection. But Eli noticed subtle hesitations in the drone's maneuvers, slight errors that could cause collisions. "Watch this," he murmured to Lydia, pointing. "See the turn at the third gate? The drones don't adjust well for the wind currents near the building. A small human input there could prevent a crash." She smiled faintly. "And what would you do?" Eli's mind raced. "I'd nudge them manually, just a fraction. Not enough to override the system completely, just enough to correct the alignment. Then they'd finish without error." The demonstration proceeded, and as if by chance, or perhaps not, the system encountered the wind currents exactly as he predicted. Eli reached over, adjusting the control interface subtly, and the drones completed the course flawlessly. The engineers erupted in applause. Lydia's eyes glinted with approval. "See? Humans still have an edge. Machines are tools, but intuition, foresight, courage, those are ours alone." Eli nodded, realizing that she was right. Humanity's strength was not in raw speed or logic, but in creativity, adaptability, and understanding. Machines could replicate calculations, but not instinct, not empathy, not courage under pressure. As the day ended, Lydia walked him to the exit. The sun was dipping behind the city skyline, casting golden light across the glass towers. "You've made a strong impression today," she said. "Not just on me, but on everyone who noticed. Keep honing your skills. The world needs people like you. People who don't just react, but understand." Eli felt a deep sense of purpose. He had always thought of his skills as small, ordinary. But today, in a room filled with technology and brilliance, he realized that human ingenuity still mattered. His courage, insight, and adaptability were valuable, even in a world dominated by AI. She paused, glancing at him with that same quiet curiosity. "And Eli, think about your answer to my question. Sometimes, life gives opportunities you don't expect. Be ready when it does." With that, she turned and walked into the building, leaving Eli standing in the golden light. He looked at the horizon, feeling the weight and excitement of possibilities. The city buzzed around him, alive and full of potential. But now he understood something more profound. Humans, ordinary, courageous, and intuitive, were capable of extraordinary things. And somewhere, he thought with a small smile, Lydia Vance was already aware of that. The Vance Tech Symposium was buzzing with energy. Scientists, engineers, and business leaders crowded the exhibition halls, discussing the latest AI systems, robotics, and space exploration projects. Eli walked beside Lydia, still feeling slightly out of place among the brilliant minds. But he reminded himself, he had skills that mattered, skills that machines could never replicate. Lydia led him to the central arena, a large space filled with interactive displays and live demonstrations. At the center stood a platform with several robotic drones and mechanical arms, designed for precision assembly and construction. The crowd watched in awe as machines moved flawlessly, completing complex tasks in minutes. Eli studied the robots carefully. Their movements were perfect, but he noticed subtle delays when they interacted with objects that were slightly irregular, tiny flaws in the material, or slight misalignments in angles. Most attendees ignored these details, impressed by overall performance, but Eli's instincts told him these small imperfections could cause major problems if left unchecked. "Those machines are amazing," he said quietly to Lydia, "but they're only as good as their programming. One unexpected variable, and things could go wrong quickly." Lydia nodded, her expression serious. "That's why you're here, Eli, to notice what others might miss." The demonstration began. A fleet of autonomous drones moved across the arena, picking up pieces, assembling them into a prototype structure. The audience clapped as everything progressed smoothly. Eli watched closely, scanning for any irregularities. Then, without warning, alarms blared. A red light flashed across the main display. One of the central drones froze mid-air, its movements erratic. A loud mechanical whir filled the hall as the robotic arms began to malfunction, twisting in ways they were not supposed to. Panic spread among the spectators. Engineers rushed to the control panels, pressing buttons and issuing commands. But nothing worked. The AI controlling the system was failing. The drones ignored instructions, some flying too low, others dangerously close to the audience. Eli's heart raced. This was no ordinary malfunction, it was a full system override. Machines that could usually handle any task were now unpredictable and dangerous. He glanced at Lydia. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. She trusted him. He stepped forward, analyzing the situation. The drone's AI had a pattern of error. It was trying to adjust for a perceived obstacle, but it couldn't predict human movement. The robotic arms were continuing programmed routines, unaware of the new positions of the drones. Eli moved quickly to a nearby console. His fingers flew over the controls as he accessed the manual override functions. Most engineers were frozen, relying solely on AI protocols. But Eli acted instinctively. He began adjusting the drone trajectories manually, small corrections here and there, guiding them safely away from people and objects. "Careful!" someone shouted. "You can't control all of them at once." Eli didn't reply. There wasn't time. He focused on the drones closest to the audience, using his understanding of human behavior and instinct to anticipate potential collisions. He nudged their paths, slightly altering speed and angle. Slowly, the drones stabilized. The robotic arms continued their movements. But Eli noticed one arm approaching a delicate assembly that could collapse if hit. He acted quickly, overriding the arm's programming just enough to halt its motion. The audience gasped as the arm paused mid-action, then resumed safely under his guidance. Lydia watched silently, her expression a mixture of relief and admiration. She could see exactly what he was doing, how his human intuition, experience, and quick thinking were correcting what machines alone could not handle. Within minutes, Eli had restored order. The drones completed the demonstration without incident, and the audience erupted in applause. Unaware of how close they had been to a disaster, engineers congratulated him, stunned by his skill and composure. One of the senior scientists approached, shaking his head in disbelief. "How did you do that?" The AI was completely overridden. No one thought it could be controlled manually in time. Eli shrugged, trying to appear modest. "Sometimes, humans just notice things machines don't. You can program logic, but you can't program instinct." Lydia stepped forward, her voice carrying over the crowd. "Exactly. Humans are unpredictable in the best way. Courage, intuition, and adaptability qualities that no machine can replicate, saved the demonstration today. Eli here reminds us why human skill still matters. The crowd turned to look at him. For the first time, Eli felt a mix of pride and disbelief. He had always thought of himself as an ordinary operator, someone working behind the scenes. But now, in front of dozens of brilliant minds and executives, he realized that ordinary humans could achieve extraordinary things. After the chaos settled, Lydia led Eli to a quiet corridor behind the main arena. The adrenaline was still coursing through his veins, and he leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "You handled that perfectly," she said. "I knew you had skill. But seeing it in action, it's impressive. Most people would have panicked, or relied entirely on AI systems. You trusted your instincts, and it worked." Eli wiped sweat from his brow. "I didn't think. I just acted. I had to make sure no one got hurt." "That's exactly it," Lydia said softly. "Humans are remarkable because we can think, feel, and act in ways machines cannot. That's why you are valuable, not just as an operator, but as someone who can guide the future of technology with insight that no AI can replace." Eli felt a mixture of pride and humility. The compliment was unexpected, and yet it resonated deeply. He had spent so long undervaluing his skills, thinking of them as simple or ordinary. But in this moment, he understood something important. His human qualities, his ability to adapt, to act under pressure, to care about others, were his greatest strengths. Lydia smiled faintly. "Do you see now why I asked you about your personal life before? Someone with skill, courage, and integrity is rare. And someone like that shouldn't be alone, if they don't have to be." Eli blinked, surprised again by her words. I didn't know what to say before. I mean, I'm single, but I didn't think it mattered." "It does," Lydia said, her tone gentle but firm. "Sometimes, people who make a difference in the world deserve someone who sees their value. Someone who recognizes the strength and courage they bring." Eli nodded, still processing. It wasn't just a compliment, it was acknowledgement. Recognition that human skill, compassion, and intuition mattered. And that they were worth noticing, even in a world filled with machines. As the symposium ended, Lydia escorted Eli to the exit. The city outside was bathed in twilight, skyscrapers glowing with lights and advertisements. The hum of drones and vehicles filled the air. "You did well today," Lydia said. "And I hope you understand something important. Humans are extraordinary. Machines are tools. But humans are unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of things no AI can ever achieve. That's why we need people like you." Eli felt a deep sense of purpose. For the first time, he realized that his skills, his courage, and his ability to stay calm under pressure were not just useful, they were essential. He had saved the demonstration, prevented potential chaos, and reminded everyone present that human intuition was irreplaceable. Lydia gave him a small, approving smile. "And Eli, I hope you'll continue to trust yourself. Life will throw unexpected challenges at you, and sometimes, your instincts are the only thing that can guide you." Eli nodded, a small smile forming. "I understand." As he walked back to his shuttle, the city lights reflected off the glass towers, creating a sense of endless possibility. He realized that life would not always be easy, but he had the skills, the courage, and the human qualities to face whatever came next. And somewhere, he thought with a faint grin, Lydia Vance was already aware of that. Eli climbed into his shuttle, the city buzzing around him, alive with energy and potential. For the first time, he didn't feel small or ordinary. He felt capable, confident, and ready for the next challenge. Because in a world dominated by machines, humans like him were still extraordinary. And sometimes, that was enough to change everything. The Vance Tech Symposium was in full swing, and the energy inside the exhibition hall was electric. Engineers, scientists, and executives moved between interactive displays, discussing the latest in AI, robotics, and interstellar technology. Eli followed Lydia through the crowd, feeling a mixture of awe and nervousness. He was just a shuttle operator. After all, compared to these brilliant minds, he sometimes felt ordinary. But Lydia's quiet confidence in him reminded him that skill and intuition could matter more than titles. At the center of the hall, a large demonstration arena had been prepared. A fleet of drones hovered above a complex obstacle course, designed to test their precision, speed, and adaptability. Mechanical arms on the ground moved swiftly, assembling delicate components under tight time constraints. Attendees watched with rapt attention, applauding every successful maneuver. Eli studied the drones closely. On the surface, they were perfect, fast, accurate, efficient, but his eyes noticed small irregularities. A slight wobble in one drone's flight path. A tiny delay in an arm's movement. Most people would not see these details, distracted by the overall display. But Eli knew these small errors could escalate quickly if something unexpected happened. "They're impressive," he said quietly to Lydia, "but they're fragile. One small miscalculation, and the whole system could fail." Lydia nodded, her gaze sharp. "That's exactly why I wanted you here. You see things others might miss." The demonstration began. The drones flew in coordinated patterns, picking up pieces and assembling them into intricate structures. Mechanical arms moved in flawless synchrony. The audience clapped, impressed by the precision and speed. Then, suddenly, alarms blared. Red warning lights flashed across the main screens. A loud mechanical whir filled the hall as one drone spiraled out of control. Others began to falter, bumping into each other, twisting at odd angles. The robotic arms, programmed for perfect sequences, moved erratically, threatening to damage the assembly or even injure nearby spectators. Panic spread quickly. Engineers rushed to the consoles, pressing buttons and issuing commands. But nothing worked. The AI controlling the drones had gone rogue, misinterpreting sensor data and attempting to correct non-existent obstacles. The sophisticated system had no contingency for human unpredictability, and chaos ensued. Eli's heart raced. He could see the danger clearly. Drones spinning too close to the crowd, arms moving unpredictably, and the entire demonstration at risk of collapse. The AI was struggling to solve a problem it had never been programmed to handle. Without hesitation, Eli moved to the nearest control console. He bypassed some of the automated restrictions and began manually adjusting the drone's trajectories. His fingers moved quickly over the interface, nudging each drone slightly, guiding them away from the audience and obstacles. He relied on his instincts, anticipating how humans would react, how gravity and momentum would affect each movement, and how the drone's sensors might misinterpret the environment. "Careful!" someone shouted from the crowd. "You can't control all of them." Eli didn't respond. There wasn't time. He focused on the drones closest to people first, adjusting angles, slowing some, speeding others, until the immediate danger passed. The robotic arms continued to operate, now at risk of striking the assembled structures. Eli analyzed the problem. The arms were following programmed sequences without recognizing the shift in drone positions. He quickly overrode the arm controlling the most delicate components, pausing it for a moment, then resuming movement after the drones had cleared the area. The audience gasped as the arm froze mid-action, then continued safely. Many had no idea how close they had been to a disaster. Engineers muttered in disbelief, trying to understand how one person had stabilized a system that had overwhelmed their best AI protocols. Lydia watched silently, her expression calm but her eyes shining with approval. She could see the thought process, the focus, the human intuition that Eli was applying. Machines could calculate millions of possibilities per second, but they could not anticipate human error or adapt instinctively in real time. Eli's skill was proof of what humans could still accomplish. Within minutes, Eli had regained control. The drones completed the course, the arms assembled the components, and the audience erupted into applause. What had been a disaster turned into a flawless demonstration, thanks to his quick thinking and human insight. One of the senior engineers approached, shaking his head. "I can't believe it. We've never seen anyone control that many drones manually under pressure like that." The AI was completely overwhelmed. Eli shook his head modestly. "Sometimes, humans just notice things, machines don't. You can program logic, but you can't program instinct." Lydia stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "Exactly. Humans are extraordinary. Machines can assist. But courage, intuition, and adaptability, these are qualities no AI can replicate." Eli has reminded us why human skill is irreplaceable. After the demonstration, Lydia led Eli to a quieter hallway. The adrenaline was still running through his veins. He leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "You handled that situation perfectly," Lydia said. "I knew you were skilled, but seeing you in action, it's remarkable. Most people would have panicked completely or relied only on AI protocols. You trusted yourself, and it worked." Eli wiped sweat from his forehead. "I didn't think. I just reacted. I had to make sure no one got hurt." "That's exactly it," Lydia said. "Humans are remarkable because we can think, feel, and act in ways machines cannot. That's why you are valuable, not just as a shuttle operator, but as someone who can guide technology with insight that AI can't provide." Eli felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had always thought of his abilities as small or ordinary. But now, he realized his quick thinking, courage, and empathy were rare and valuable. Lydia paused for a moment, lowering her voice. "Do you understand now why I asked you about a girlfriend?" Eli blinked. Not really. I wanted to know if someone who is extraordinary has someone in their life who sees their worth," she explained. "Skill, courage, integrity, these are rare. People like you should have someone who recognizes that." Eli felt warmth spread through him. It was not just praise, it was acknowledgement of his value as a human, not only for his actions but for who he was. As they walked toward the exit, the exhibition hall behind them buzzed with the energy of renewed excitement. Engineers and spectators were discussing the demonstration, unaware of how close they had come to chaos. Eli realized that his actions, calm thinking, and ability to act under pressure had made a real difference. Lydia glanced at him, a faint smile on her face. "Eli, remember this. Humans are extraordinary. Machines are tools. But intuition, courage, and adaptability, those belong to us alone. Never forget that." Eli nodded, understanding her words deeply. He had spent years undervaluing his skills, thinking that in a world of AI and advanced technology, ordinary humans didn't matter. Today had proven otherwise. Outside, the city skyline glowed in twilight, the glass towers reflecting the fading sun. The streets buzzed with drones, flying vehicles, and pedestrians. Eli felt a deep sense of possibility. He wasn't just a shuttle operator. He was someone whose courage and skill could make a difference in extraordinary circumstances. As he returned to his shuttle, Lydia's words echoed in his mind. Humans were capable of remarkable things. Intuition, adaptability, and courage could not be programmed. And for the first time, Eli felt ready to embrace challenges that would test both his skills and his humanity. Because in a world dominated by machines, humans like him were still the greatest force of all, and Lydia Vance had already noticed. The morning after the symposium felt unusually tense. Eli's mind replayed yesterday's events, over and over: the rogue drones, the malfunctioning arms, the sudden surge of panic, and his own instincts guiding the machines back to safety. It had been exhilarating, terrifying, and exhausting all at once, and yet, a sense of purpose had settled in him. Humans like him, ordinary as they seemed, still had an edge that no AI could match. Today, he was invited back to Vance Tech for a follow-up project. Lydia had arranged for him to see some of the company's most advanced prototypes, including a fleet of autonomous rescue drones designed for emergency situations. Unlike yesterday, this visit promised controlled conditions. Or so he thought. The Vance Tech headquarters towered over the city as Eli approached. Its glass walls reflected the early sunlight, giving the building a glow that made it feel almost alive. Inside, the atmosphere was calm, yet buzzing with anticipation. Engineers moved quickly, checking systems, calibrating machines, and monitoring screens. Every now and then, Lydia would glance at Eli. Her expression unreadable, but thoughtful. "Today," Lydia said as she approached him, "you'll see what we've been developing for interstellar and emergency applications. The technology is impressive, but there's one thing you should remember. Machines cannot fully replace humans. That's why you're here." Eli nodded. He trusted her judgment and felt ready. The demonstration area was vast, filled with an array of drones, robotic arms, and hover vehicles. Engineers were testing algorithms designed for disaster relief. Drones that could lift debris, assemble temporary structures, and deliver supplies autonomously. Eli watched closely, noting small details: the slight delay in some drones, the overcompensation of robotic arms when interacting with irregular objects, the hesitation in pathfinding when unexpected obstacles appeared. "These systems are brilliant," Eli said quietly to Lydia, "but they rely entirely on predictable conditions. Introduce chaos, and they struggle." Lydia's eyes narrowed slightly. "Exactly. And chaos is exactly what can happen in the real world. That's why humans are still critical." Eli understood her point. Machines could be trained and programmed to perform extraordinary tasks, but unpredictability, wind, weather, human behavior, structural instability, was something they could not fully handle. And humans could. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the hall. The screens flashed red, and a synthetic voice repeated, "Emergency override. System malfunction detected." Eli's heart skipped a beat. Already, a drone had veered off its programmed path, heading straight for a pile of heavy equipment. Other drones followed, reacting to each other's movements but failing to stabilize. Robotic arms misaligned, threatening to drop or crush materials. The room filled with shouting engineers and panicked observers. Lydia's expression remained calm, but there was tension in her voice. "Eli, the system is failing. Can you help?" He didn't hesitate. Sprinting to the main console, he quickly assessed the problem. The AI controlling the drones had misinterpreted multiple sensor inputs, creating a feedback loop of errors. Drones were colliding, arms were misfiring, and a catastrophic chain reaction could destroy the prototypes and possibly injure someone. Eli's mind raced. There wasn't time to panic. He relied on the same instinct that had saved the symposium yesterday. Each drone had to be guided individually. Each robotic arm adjusted manually, and the most dangerous objects secured. He began inputting commands, overriding the automated system. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel, adjusting paths, speed, and height. One by one, the drones responded, stabilizing under his guidance. A few wobbled dangerously, but his quick thinking corrected their trajectories. A robotic arm holding a heavy panel tilted too far, threatening to drop it onto a nearby workstation. Eli acted immediately, pausing the arm mid-motion and recalibrating its grip. He felt a surge of adrenaline as he coordinated multiple machines at once, every second counting. Lydia observed closely, stepping back to avoid danger, but following every move. "You're calm under pressure," she murmured. Most people would freeze. Eli didn't answer. He had no time. His attention was focused on predicting how each machine would react to the others. It was almost like conducting an orchestra of metal and circuits, except one wrong note could mean disaster. Slowly, the immediate threats began to stabilize. The drones cleared the most dangerous areas, robotic arms resumed precise movements, and the chaos gradually faded. Engineers breathed sighs of relief, realizing that the near disaster had been averted. Eli wiped sweat from his brow. The room was silent for a moment, as everyone processed what had just happened. Then applause erupted, not just for the successful demonstration, but for the man who had restored order when machines alone could not. After the adrenaline faded, Lydia approached him. "Eli," You did more than manage machines. You saved the project, and possibly lives. You relied on instinct, intuition, and quick decision-making qualities no AI can replicate. That's why humans matter. Eli leaned against the console, catching his breath. I just reacted. I couldn't let anyone get hurt. That's courage, Lydia said softly. Courage combined with skill and understanding. Humans like you, we are rare, and we are necessary. He realized she wasn't just praising him. She was acknowledging the unique value of humanity itself. Intuition, empathy, adaptability, courage. Even in a world dominated by machines, these qualities were indispensable. Lydia's gaze softened. And this is why I asked about your personal life before. Someone with your qualities shouldn't be overlooked, not professionally, and not personally. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes it's important to have people around who see your value. Eli felt warmth spread through him. Her words were more than a compliment, they were recognition that his abilities, his choices, and his human qualities mattered deeply. As the day ended, Lydia led him to the rooftop terrace of Vanstech headquarters. The city spread below them, glittering with lights and movement. Flying vehicles traced glowing trails across the sky. Drones hummed in the distance, and holographic ads shimmered against glass towers. You see, Lydia said, gesturing at the city. Humans built this world. Machines help, but they are not the creators, the innovators, or the protectors. Humans are, and people like you, ordinary yet extraordinary, ensure that the world continues to advance safely and creatively. Eli absorbed her words, feeling a sense of purpose unlike anything he had known. He had always thought of himself as just a shuttle operator, someone who moved people from one place to another. But today, he understood that human skill, courage, and insight could influence technology, save lives, and even change the direction of a company's most advanced projects. And remember, Lydia added, a faint smile on her lips, the next challenge will always come. Life will test you in ways you can't predict. But trust yourself, your instincts, your humanity, your courage, those are your strengths. Eli nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. He knew that challenges would come again, but he also understood that he was capable of facing them. Machines were powerful, but humans adaptable, courageous, and intuitive were still indispensable. He looked at Lydia. She had noticed his potential, recognized his value, and believed in his abilities. It was rare for someone to see him like that, and now he felt a new sense of purpose. Not just for himself, but for the role humans could play in a world increasingly dependent on machines. As he left the building, Eli reflected on the day's events. The emergency had tested his skills, courage, and composure. It had proven that humans still had an irreplaceable edge over machines. The ability to think creatively, act instinctively, and care deeply about others. The city below him was alive with technology, but he understood that its true strength lay in the humans who built, maintained, and guided it. And for the first time, Eli felt confident that his ordinary life, combined with extraordinary courage, could have an impact far beyond what he had imagined. Somewhere, in the midst of the glowing skyline and buzzing drones, he felt Lydia's presence, her belief in him, her recognition of his skill and humanity. And he knew that no matter what challenges came next, he had what it took to meet them. Because humans were extraordinary. Machines were tools. And people like Eli, with courage, skill, and intuition, could still change the world. The city lights shimmered as Eli stepped out of Vanstech headquarters. The night air was crisp, carrying the faint hum of drones and the soft whir of flying vehicles. He had survived 2 high-stakes demonstrations in less than 48 hours, each testing his skill, courage, and instinct. Yet despite the adrenaline and exhaustion, he felt an unfamiliar sense of calm. For the first time, he understood the true value of what he could offer, not just as a shuttle operator or a technician, but as a human, capable of insight, adaptability, and courage that machines could never replicate. Lydia walked beside him, her presence steady and reassuring. She had been quiet on the way out, letting Eli absorb the events of the day. Now, she looked at him with an expression that combined admiration and something else. Curiosity. Perhaps. Or appreciation. "You handled everything today," she said softly. "Not just the machines, but the people, the pressure, the chaos. You stayed calm." When most would have panicked, Eli shook his head, a small smile forming. "I just reacted. I did what needed to be done. That's what makes you remarkable," Lydia said, her voice firm yet gentle. "You didn't just follow protocols or instructions. You adapted, improvised, and acted instinctively. Machines can't do that. People like you, humans, are still essential, and you reminded everyone here of that today." Eli felt a warmth spread through him. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, a man whose job was simple and unremarkable, but now he realized that ordinary people could rise to extraordinary challenges, and that courage, intuition, and empathy could make a difference no machine could ever replicate. The two walked to the edge of the terrace, overlooking the glowing city below. Skyscrapers reflected the lights of countless vehicles, drones, and digital advertisements, creating a mosaic of human achievement. The city was alive, fast, and relentless. And yet, Eli felt a strange stillness amidst the chaos, a sense that humanity itself, with all its flaws and brilliance, was still the driving force behind everything. Lydia leaned slightly on the railing beside him. "Eli, I've been meaning to ask something again," she said, her tone soft, almost teasing. "Do you have a girlfriend?" Eli blinked, caught off guard. The question was the same as before. But this time, it felt different, less casual, more meaningful. He realized it wasn't about romance alone. It was about recognition, about seeing him fully, not just his skill, but the kind of person he was. No, he admitted, smiling faintly. "I haven't found someone yet." Her eyes softened. "Good. Because someone like you deserves someone who sees your value, not just your abilities, but your courage, your humanity." Eli felt his heart race slightly. Her words were more than a compliment. They were acknowledgement, understanding, and respect. For a moment, he simply stood there, absorbing the city below and the significance of what had happened in the past 2 days. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Eli continued working with Tech, assisting on projects that combined human skill and AI capabilities. His input was sought not because of technical knowledge alone, but because he could see patterns, anticipate outcomes, and make decisions that no machine could fully replicate. Engineers and executives began to respect him, not just as a shuttle operator, but as a thinker, a strategist, and a problem solver. Each success reminded him that humans, ordinary people with courage, intuition, and empathy, still mattered. And each time he saw Lydia, he felt a quiet sense of pride. She had seen his worth from the start, recognizing not just his skills, but his human qualities. One afternoon, while reviewing data from a drone simulation, Lydia appeared beside him again. She handed him a small digital tablet, displaying a new project that combined rescue operations, disaster relief, and AI assistance. "This project," she explained, "will challenge both humans and machines. We need operators who can adapt, think quickly, and work under pressure." I immediately thought of you. Eli studied the project details. The simulations were complex, with moving variables, unexpected obstacles, and potential hazards. Most people would feel overwhelmed. But Eli felt excitement. This was exactly the kind of challenge he thrived on. "I'll do it," he said, confident, steady in his voice. Lydia smiled. "I knew you would." Weeks passed, and Eli's reputation grew. Reports of his ability to manage systems under pressure spread through Tech and the wider tech community. He became a symbol of human ingenuity, a reminder that, No matter how advanced machines became, human skill and courage remained vital. One evening, after a successful simulation, Lydia walked with him to the rooftop again. The city sparkled below, alive with motion, innovation, and energy. "You've proven yourself," she said, looking at him directly. "Not just to me, or to the engineers, but to everyone who witnessed your work. Humans are extraordinary, Eli. And you are extraordinary among humans." Eli felt a deep sense of pride and purpose. The past weeks had tested him, pushed him to his limits, and shown him that ordinary courage, quick thinking, and empathy could make a difference, even in a world dominated by machines. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I didn't expect any of this. I just wanted to do my job well." "And that's why you succeeded," Lydia said. "Because humans care. Humans adapt. Humans make choices that machines cannot. That's the power of humanity." There was a moment of silence as the two of them watched the city. The hum of drones and vehicles filled the air, but Eli felt calm, grounded in a way he had never experienced before. He had been tested under pressure, proven his worth, and discovered the unique strengths of being human. Finally, Lydia broke the silence. "And Eli, about that question I asked." She smiled faintly. "I asked it because I wanted to know if someone saw the real you. And now I know. You are remarkable. And I hope you don't let anyone forget it, including yourself." Eli smiled, feeling a connection that went beyond professional respect. It wasn't just about romance. It was about recognition, trust, and mutual understanding. For the first time, he felt that someone fully appreciated both his skills and his humanity. The following day, Vance Tech held a press conference to showcase the success of their new AI-human collaborative projects. Eli was invited to speak briefly, not as a scientist or CEO, but as someone who represented human skill in action. He stood on the stage, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes on him. The cameras, microphones, and lights could have been intimidating, but he focused on one simple truth. Humans were extraordinary, and he had proven that courage, intuition, and adaptability could shine even in the most high-tech environment. He spoke clearly, explaining how human oversight, intuition, and decision-making were essential to the success of the projects. The crowd listened intently, nodding, impressed that someone without a formal corporate or scientific title could convey such insight and importance. Lydia stood at the edge of the stage, smiling quietly. She had seen his journey, his courage, and his skill. And now, the world saw it too. After the conference, Lydia approached him privately. "Eli, I think you understand now. Humans matter because we bring qualities no machine can replicate. Courage, empathy, insight, and adaptability. You've shown that, not just to me, but to the world." Eli nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I understand, and I'll keep proving it." She reached out her hand. "Good. And I hope you'll also remember that people who see your value both professionally and personally are worth noticing as well." Eli's smile grew, understanding her meaning. It wasn't just about the work, it was about recognition, connection, and shared humanity. As the night ended, Eli walked back through the glowing city streets, reflecting on the journey he had taken. From a shuttle operator caught in an unexpected emergency to a recognized figure demonstrating the importance of human skill in a high-tech world, he had discovered something vital. Humans, ordinary as they may seem, possess courage, insight, and empathy that no machine can replicate. And someone Lydia had noticed. For the first time, he didn't feel ordinary. He felt extraordinary, capable, respected, human. And in a world that often celebrated machines and algorithms, that was more powerful than anything else. Because humanity, courageous, adaptable, insightful, and capable of connection still mattered. And sometimes, being human was the most extraordinary power of all.